What's up, guys? Matt Moda here. We got game two of the Phillies series against the Reds. That continues on tonight. I got two home run predictions to lock in for this game tonight. Admittedly, yesterday did not go well for us. Went 0 for 3 on our home run predictions. The only home run hit in the game yesterday was Kyle Schwarber, who has been on my list a ton of times recently, but I'm never going to touch somebody to hit a home run at odds under plus 200, which is the case for Kyle Schwarber yesterday. Once again, the case for him today. So tough day yesterday. Not much we could do about that. Both Taijuan Walker and Andrew Abbott pitched gems. At least the Phillies were able to come through with the win. Thank you to some late game heroics from, of course, you guessed it, Kyle Schwarber. They won 4-1. Now, again, game two of that series is tonight. We got Brady Singer on the mound for the Reds, Ranger Suarez on the mound for the Phillies. Once again, have really good hitting conditions at this game in Cincinnati tonight. I know that was the case yesterday and it didn't come through, but it is still the case today. So again, two home run predictions for you guys to lock in. Before we get into that, just remember to go to BetMGM, use promo code CROSSING to get in on the action on BetMGM. So we'll get started with the plays that we have for today. We're going to start with Bryce Harper to hit a home run at plus 220 odds. I would love to go with Kyle Schwarber. His odds are just so bad that it's really just tough to go with somebody at below plus 200 odds to hit a home run. And at least Bryce is playable at plus 220. Obviously, that's pretty low for someone like Bryce, who I'm not going to say is hitting that well at the plate. But there are a ton of factors in favor of Bryce, which is why the books are pricing it this way. The biggest thing, and I mentioned this a couple times now, fantastic hitting conditions in Cincinnati. Again, I know this was the case yesterday, and that didn't come to fruition. But that still holds true today. Just because it didn't work out yesterday doesn't mean it also won't work out tonight. The biggest thing to mention about these hitting conditions, the temperature, going to be in the 90s when the game starts, going to be in the high 80s for the majority of the game. Hot weather equals farther carry for the baseball. There's also relatively low barometric pressure in this game as well, which is also going to help with carry. And the Reds Stadium is already one of the most hitter-friendly venues in the entire MLB, not even looking at the weather, just because of the small outfields. Great American Ballpark, people like to call it Great American Small Park because of how tiny the outfields are, which just means that the ball doesn't need to travel as far in order to be a home run. So even after yesterday's quiet game, the conditions are solid for a home run tonight. And then you look at Bryce Harper, he's definitely cooled down a decent amount since that ridiculous run he had been on. It started slightly before the All-Star break and then continued slightly after the All-Star break. He's not quite on that level of run, but he did have a good day at the plate yesterday. So hopefully we're able to catch Bryce as he's heading into one of these hot streaks and kind of catch it beforehand. Yesterday, he had, in a game that was hard to come by in terms of hits, I should mention that, Bryce had two hard hits. Both of them were above 100 miles per hour exit velocity. One of them had a launch angle that was too low to really be a real home run threat. One of them had a decent launch angle at 22 degrees. Like, you want that to be 25 and 35, kind of between 25 and 35 degree launch angle is kind of the sweet spot for a home run. 22 degree launch angle at 100 plus miles an hour exit velocity. That's pretty good. A couple degrees higher, that bad boy is a home run. So even though we generally like to go with batters that are hitting better recently, Bryce still had a pretty good day at the plate yesterday. And then you look at Brady Singer, who was on the mound for the Reds, as I mentioned. He is the type of pitcher that you want to target left-handed bats against him. On the year, Singer has allowed a home run every 23 and a half at-bats to lefties. That's down from every 64 at-bats to righties. It's a huge, huge difference for him going from the lefty to the right-handed hitter. And obviously, you want to target Bryce as a lefty. And you look at the advanced stats, everything from like barrel rate to hard hit rate and everything like that, they're much, much worse against lefties. So hopefully Bryce is able to clear a fence tonight. All we need is to go one of two for these home run predictions, and we're going to at least make some money. Let's hope Bryce is one of them. Next up, the second play that we have is Miguel Andujar. We're taking him for the Reds. He is offered at plus 850, best offered price at BetMGM. A relatively unknown player. Not a lot of people know who he is. He's actually been hitting pretty well as a member of the Reds. Now, it's been 10 days, and he hasn't played every single game in that stretch, but you look at how he has performed since August 2nd is when he made his debut for the Reds. Barrel rate of 23%, hard hit rate of 77%. Those are fantastic numbers. I mean, if you extrapolate that out for an entire year, he would be at the top of the MLB. Now, obviously, he's going to cool down a little bit, but we do like to catch players when they're in the middle of this stretch. And, those are fantastic numbers that are maybe propped up a little bit by his strikeout rate of 25%. Like, if I'm taking a pitcher to strike out batters, I want batters that have a strikeout rate of 25% or higher. So he's definitely got on the higher side of a strikeout rate. But it's not that crazy. Like, there are some batters in the 30%. So a higher strikeout rate is going to lead to higher percentage numbers of barrel rate and hard hit rate. 25% is not that crazy. His ISO rate in this stretch is 263. So between ISO rate and barrel rate, that would put him in the excellent category as defined by Fangraphs for both of those stats. They define an excellent barrel rate as anything 15% or higher, and they define an excellent ISO rate as anything 250 or higher. As a member of the Reds, he's excellent in both of those categories. So he's been hitting well. He's also been hitting lefties very hard as well. Now, another small sample size, but you look at his numbers against left-handed pitching. I'm looking at the last 30 days here. 333 ISO, that is very, very good. 11% barrel rate. That is not amazing, but it is acceptable. And obviously, that barrel rate is higher against righties, but 11% is still pretty good. And that ISO rate is fantastic. And he's also been doing a relatively good job putting the ball in the air, fly ball rate of 44%. Obviously, at Red Stadium, you need that ball to be hit. I mean, for any home run, but especially Red Stadium, you need that ball to be hit in the air in order for it to be a home run because of that short outfield. Now, you look at Ranger Suarez, who's pitching for the Phillies, basically unhittable for a lot of the year. Kind of him and Zach Wheeler are kind of simpatico that they haven't been as good recently. And Ranger, we've seen a couple times now his arm kind of falter over the course of the season. His arm kind of tires out. That's what's happening now. Maybe he can turn it around. Let's hope that he does for Philly fans out there. And I'm not going to say that he's been horrible, but he's been worse. You look at his numbers across the board, like the last 30 days versus the entire year. Everything you can think of, like ISO rate, WOBA, everything is worse across the board. Looking at home runs specifically on the year, he's allowed a home run every 50 at-bats. That is a very high number. Generally not anybody that we want to target for a home run. Over his last 6 starts, that number jumps up to every 38 at-bats, and he's slightly worse, like every 36 at-bats to righties. Now, every 36, every 38 at-bats, that's still a good number overall. That's not somebody that I'll typically say, oh, we want to target that pitcher, but it's definitely worse than what he has been. And Ranger, typically a ground ball contact type of pitcher, his fly ball rate to righties is at like 31%, which is not horrible, but it's also not quite as good as it has been. So you kind of put all that stuff together, especially the price at plus 850. You get the solid hitting conditions. You get a batter that's been hitting the ball well against a pitcher that is slightly struggling for his standards. Absolutely worth a sprinkle for Miguel Andujar at plus 850. And then we got Bryce at plus 220. And that's all we got. I appreciate everybody for watching. Make sure to like the video, comment, subscribe. Go to BetMGM, use promo code CROSSING to get in on the action. Make sure to bet responsibly and have a good one. Must be 21 or older in participating states. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. See terms and conditions in the description of the video.